Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, CI 202. I'm very happy to be starting week number 14, which is the unit on equity and technology. So as we know, the role of digital media will be more and more important in formal and informal learning spaces in the future. So in order to maximize the potential of low-cost digital media, we need to think about who has access to the digital tools, resources, and services in order to increase digital knowledge, awareness, and skills. We also need to pay great attention to the social and the cultural barriers that are faced by students furthest from opportunity. So we need to be aware of the barriers, and then we need to proactively work to lower the barriers so all our students can receive benefit of digital tools, resources, and services. So the notion of the digital divide was first used in the late 1990s simply to describe whether or not one had access to the internet. Since then, this concept has become more nuanced, as we know that there are people who do have access to the internet. However, they are under-networked or they're under-connected, which means that they may have to share a computer, they may have a slow or unreliable connection, they may have to pay by the minute, which is common in other countries, or they may have had their internet shut off for 1 month and they had to repay it, etc. So we find that the concept of under-networked and or under-connected is more nuanced than the simple binary of whether or not one has access. What we know is that digital media has the potential to radically change how we teach and learn. We also know that the digital technologies tend to be used and accessed in very unequal ways and may even exacerbate or make worse inequality. So research from the Connected Learning Alliance has highlighted 3 findings. First is that even when the technology is used, it can lead to very unequal results. So schools with students from higher socioeconomic status or with more socioeconomic status, i.e. Those students who are more affluent, tend to use technologies to support critical thinking, collaboration, and creation, while schools with students from low socioeconomic status also tended to use technologies for basic skills. So in this case, the same technology is used for 2 very different purposes. So as teachers, we have to think about how we can use the affordances of technology for their full potential, rather than simply as a replacement, which is often used in very remedial ways. Okay. Second thing we have to think about is what are the potential, or what is the difference between the potential of things like MOOCs versus what is the reality. So while MOOCs have the potential to provide access to the best instructors, what happened in reality is that students in MOOCs tended to disproportionately benefit affluent and the highly educated. These students needed to have a reliable interconnection. They needed to speak English. They needed to have lots of time in order not just to view the courses, but to also complete the assignments. They also needed to have high information literacy in order to participate, and they tended to be college educated. So while the potential for things like MOOCs is there in order to maximize anytime learning, in reality, this simply reinforced existing inequalities. 3, technology is used in particular ways for many, many diverse purposes by particular communities. And despite good intentions, some users of digital media can be excluded from meaningful learning experiences because of bias or social distance between the technology user and the developer. So it's important in order to support fair and equitable learning outcomes. It makes sense to concentrate our focus on getting as many different kinds of students into the development positions, whether they are developing curricula, developing games, developing community projects. These sort of things will contribute to more equitable learning outcomes. So it is possible to design for digital equity, and the Connected Learning Alliance has come up with 4 practices which can support these aims. 1 is to design with shared purpose. 2 is to join home and community. 3 is to connect to the interests of minority youth. 4 is to target the needs of a subgroup. And we will explain more of these as you make your way through the slide. So when we talk about digital equity, we have to think about how schools and other learning spaces support the learning needs of everyone and really give access to digital tools, resources, and services to everyone. And we have to think about who is excluded from those learning opportunities. So the research by Audrey Waters and the reading that we will read later on suggests that, in fact, there's a digital Matthew effect. So new technology expands the advantages of those already advantaged. So how can we continue to use technology in ways that not just reinforces existing inequalities, but provides a head start or a boost or kind of levels a playing field for everyone? How can we begin to do that? As we begin to think about our technology use and whether or not the learning outcomes are fair, we have to remember that the architecture of EdTech is not neutral, but reflects history, privilege, and power. So how can we begin to leverage technology for democratic aims? How can we begin to leverage technology for pro-social aims? How can we use technology to lower barriers to participation by valuing everyone's participation, by supporting their preferences, their cultures, and their interests? How can we begin to do this as teachers? These are some of the questions that we will have to begin to explore when we think about equity and technology. So we have 3 videos today. This is the first. And then we have 2 readings. So I'm very excited for us to continue this unit. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.